We told you not to panic after 1 week of bad performances in fantasy football, but is it time to panic after 2 weeks? We polled you all over on our Instagram about 9 different players, and today we're going to discuss and break them down as to whether or not you should start panicking. Fellas, at the very tip top of this list, I think has to be Brian Thomas Jr., gathering only 5 receptions on 19 targets through the first 2 weeks, Cameron. Brian Thomas Jr. has been your guy. Is it time to start panicking?
It was a little worrisome. If you were on Twitter at all, you saw it. I'll blast it all over Twitter that it wasn't even necessarily Trevor Lawrence, who's the usual culprit.
It wasn't.
That it was Brian Thomas. Didn't look great. Liam Cohen came out and said he had a wrist injury. So hopefully we're not in for a Tyreek Hill-esque season from last year from him. But yeah, it's definitely a little bit concerning, but I still have faith. They're still throwing him the ball a ton. I think you just got to get on the same page. Obviously, something's a little bit off. It's a new system. I trust Liam Cohen as a play caller to get him involved in ways that he's going to be well utilized. And I think Trevor Lawrence has shown with other wide receivers on this team that he's a capable of enough quarterback that these targets, while it may not be always perfect, are going to start to connect a little bit more.
The panic meter that the people gave, the consensus answer of the people over on Instagram, Ty, is 55% concerned, probably. If you're asking me, I think BTJ's got the yips, man. You go back and watch the film. Cameron, you named it. Did Trevor Lawrence put him in the best spots in the world? No, you could say they could have been better throws. You could have set him up better. But Ty, I don't know, man. BTJ just looks like a man on the football field right now that just has zero confidence in this offense, has zero confidence in his quarterback.
Or just zero confidence in himself at this point, just because
that too.
A lot of the concerns, a lot of the concentration issues that I would call them are over the middle parts of the field. And BTJ maybe is just not comfortable going over the middle, which is unfortunate because that is the role that he's going to be stuck with for the entire year. But I do need to just say, it's not like Brian Thomas Jr. isn't involved or that Trevor Lawrence has a vendetta against him and isn't throwing the ball his way still. It just hasn't connected yet. Again, 19 targets is still very, very good through 2 weeks of the season. So I understand the reason for panic because, again, the catch rate is super low. But at least, again, like I said, it's not like he's, in a doghouse. It's not like he's being punished in any kind of way by his teammates or by his coach or anything. But until we see that connection start to actually improve, I just feel like we're going to keep seeing these empty stat lines, and there's going to be no good way to answer the Brian Thomas Jr. question. You're still going to have to keep him into your lineup because at any given week, these 4-catch, 12-target games can turn into 7, 8-catch games, and then he's going to be a top 15 guy in the week.
And I do want to be fair to Brian Thomas Jr. in this as well. My initial comments. I'm putting more of this on BTJ than I am on Trevor Lawrence, but this does come from the hospital ball that Trevor Lawrence threw him in the preseason against Pittsburgh, where BTJ nearly got absolutely lit up on the play. So I get it if he's got some yips from that, but I'm also sorry if you're going to play NFL wide receiver. If you're going to play in the National Football League, you're going to get hit. You're going to take some heavy hits. You're playing human demolition derby out on the football field. So if you're not willing to take a hit, if you're not willing to put yourself in harm's way to help your team win, there's something more deeply concerning about that to me than just BTJ just looks disinterested or doesn't trust his coaching staff, doesn't trust Trevor Lawrence. At some point, you got to get over that and just say, you know what? I'm going to take a hit. I'm going to trust my quarterback to not always put me in this situation. I'm going to help my team go win this game right now. Where do you two put yourselves on the panic meter for Brian Thomas? Just quick little snippet to close this out.
I'm 20, 25%. I'm not that worried. I think he's so unbelievably talented. I think it's just a bad game. And when you got slow motion everywhere, everything looks way worse. So I'm not panicked yet. If we're in week 4 having the same conversation, then yeah, I think it's a different story. But I'm maybe 20%.
Where are you at, Ty?
I'd probably say like 30 to maybe 35 if you ask me tomorrow and we hear that like there's who was it? It was Jerry and Jones who picked up the injury for the Jaguars. So Travis Hunter had to play a little more corner, and that means then we're extra reliant then on Brian Thomas Jr. But I would say somewhere between 30 and 35%.
Yeah, I'm at like 35% because I don't know how long this is going to last. How long are the yips going to last for Brian Thomas Jr.? You can only afford to keep him in your lineup so much moving forward before if your team's like 0-4 and Brian Thomas Jr. hasn't figured things out, like you got to start turning things around if you're planning on making the fantasy playoffs this year. So again, I'm not full blown panic. I'm definitely not where the people are at, but I think 35% is a fair number for where I feel like I'm at on the panic meter right now. Before we move on to the rest of the players, fellas, I have to just express another deep sense of gratitude for our fan base, because not only did we hit 5,000 followers before week 1, but you all showed out last week. We're now up over 5,200 subscribers. That's a phenomenal count. So thank you so much. If you're watching this video and haven't tuned into haven't subscribed to the channel already, make sure you do that and hit that notification bell as well, so you know when all of our newest content is up. It's 100% free for you. And we also do giveaways sometimes. Like we literally just gave away a Nico Collins signed jersey to lucky winner William Cherney of the channel. So William, we will be in contact with you to get you that signed Nico Collins jersey. Another reason to hang around the channel if you want to be a part of other giveaways that we do throughout the course of the season. Thank you so much for 5K, for over 5,200. Now we're gonna hit 10K next before you all know it. Let's move on to our next player, another wide receiver. I think the stat that goes with AJ Brown here, fellas, is that he didn't have a single game below 36 receiving yards last year, yet through the first 2 games of the season, only 35 total receiving yards. Cameron, where are you on the panic meter?
I'm not too concerned, right? I think we knew that this was a possibility, not to this extent for AJ Brown, but for the Eagles to just be so run dominant to start the season that the passing pie was going to be smaller. You look at Jalen Hurts last game, 101 passing yards, he has 253 passing yards combined on the season. I don't expect that to keep up. I think we're going to start seeing them throw the ball more. I tweeted it out a couple days before the game that I was concerned that, hey, we're going to hype up this Kansas City Eagles game and nobody's going to have a pass over 15 yards. And I think on the day there was 2 passes that were that long. Yeah. Devonta Smith and Tyquan Thornton. Like, it was just a gross game. It was. You're hoping for the Super Bowl rematch, and it was disgusting. AJ Brown has not averaged less than 14 half PPR points since joining the Eagles. He's not less talented all of a sudden. They're not just going to abandon him right on the sideline. I think they're going to start getting him and Devonta Smith more involved in this offense. They're too talented not to. Obviously, they won both these games, so you could argue, hey, why would you fix something if it's, against Dallas and Kansas City if it works so well? But he's too talented that for it not to work out. Still coming in, had that, oh my goodness, had the hamstring injury before the start of the season. Go. So, yeah, I'm not concerned. I probably put it about the same as where I was for Brian Thomas Jr.
The thing about AJ Brown, Ty, is that when you draft him, you're going to take these lumps. You're going to take 2-3 weeks in a row where you're going to get 3 points, 7 points, 5 points. And I think, honestly, we're feeling this more at the start of the season. One, it's because when we're 100% the most invested outside of the fantasy playoffs. But 2, it just doesn't put your team in a winning position, your fantasy football team, that is, to win to start the season. And I think people are just feeling that more right now. So, the people are like sitting right around like 60, 65% over on the panic meter. I'm kind of with Cameron. I'm in his range for Brian Thomas Jr., where I'm like, I'm not quite there. I'm probably like 25, 30%. Where are you at?
Yep. 25, 30%. We're all in consensus here on this one. I'm optimistic that moving forward for Philadelphia, that they are kind of setting up the bigger kind of shot plays, just because when you look at Kansas City and Dallas and how they've been playing Philly, they've just been, they did not allow anything to beat them over the top. Everything was in front of them, and it worked for AJ Brown because all but one of his catches were on slant routes, which is what he's really good at. So my hope, and maybe I'm oversimplifying when I'm saying this, but Philly's going to be just taking what defenses are giving them. It's going to be everything short, up in front, dink and dump. And if defenses are going to try to take that away, that's when it opens up the big plays for A.J. Brown, who is by far the better deep threat here in this offense. So, yeah, I'm with you guys. 25, 30%. 8 targets after 1 target in week 1 is a positive sign for me.
And I think the theme you might pick up on throughout the course of this episode is that we're always going to tell you through the first 3-4 weeks, practice patience. Please do not overreact. Do not panic and sell these guys for pennies on the dollar, because I know so many people in your leagues right now are going to come in and try and just absolutely low blow you on guys like Brian Thomas Jr. and A.J. Brown, who you took in the first 2 rounds for a very, very good reason, okay? Practice the patience. These guys are your studs. You fire them up. It just hurts to start the season because you want to get off to that 2-0 start. You want to feel like you nailed every single pick, and you want it to happen right now, immediately, right? We're literally a society of instant gratification, but please be patient on these 2 studs you drafted in the first 2 rounds. Let's talk about another guy who went within the first 2 rounds, and maybe if you drafted early enough, he slid into the 3rd round. Chase Brown of the Cincinnati Bengals. This might feel like a weird one to people, fellas, because Chase Brown has yet to finish as a top 20 running back this year in fantasy football. And towards the end of the offseason, Chase Brown was being pushed up to being a middle of the 2nd round pick. Shoot, I even started taking Chase Brown in the middle of the 2nd round in many of my home leagues. Yet, the first 2 weeks, only 12.1 and 7.5 fantasy points. You're now without Joe Burrow for the next 3 months. Ty, I'll maybe start with you here. Because when Cameron and I initially suggested Chase Brown to be a part of this episode, you almost like instantly pushed back and you're like, whoa, is that really necessary? Where do you stand on Chase Brown?
It hasn't been pretty. We can all agree on that. The first 3 guys all have the same common theme. It hasn't been pretty just yet. But at least Chase Brown has been the one guy that has, despite all of it, been getting the touches. 21 carries in week 1, 16 carries, 2 receptions in each game. The guy is involved. Does it stink that he hasn't had more than 2.5 yards per carry in a game? Yes, it obviously does. But it's a different story if he was losing work to Taj Brooks or Samaje Perine or whoever, right? This is still Chase Brown's backfield. And I know that Joe Burrow's out of the picture now, so a lot of people are like, well, this Bengals offense won't be as good. Let's go back to 2023 when Jake Browning filled in for Joe Burrow in the second half of the year. I know it's Joe Mixon, it's not Chase Brown, but Joe Mixon was still a top 10 running back in points per game. So I think if you're going to be concerned about any Bengals players, it's the pass catchers. I think Chase Brown's volume isn't really going to be changed. You're just going to have to hope that eventually here we're going to get the ground game going and that we can get more than at least 4 yards of carry in games at this point.
Yeah, I was going to say that's the other concerning thing here, though, I think, is that 43 rushing yards in week 1, only 47 rushing yards in week 2, despite getting 21 attempts in week 1 and 16 attempts in week 2, Cameron. This offensive line play is still very bad. We're like reverting back to the 2022 Cincinnati Bengals, right? Where the offensive line wasn't great, or even 2021, even I might have undersold that, excuse me. But point being, where are you at on Chase Brown? The people are below 50% on this one. They're much less panicked.
See, I think I'm even more panicked than the people.
Oh, really?
I think we're sitting somewhere.
Really?
I think we're sitting somewhere between Chuba Hubbard and DeAndre Swift. I think we're talking about a team. They're going to get carries as well. What's the difference right now between Chuba Hubbard and Chase Brown? You can tell me all you want. Jake Browning played good, 3 years ago. This offensive line isn't good. Yeah, he's got to throw the ball a lot. He's got Jamar Chase and T. Higgins. They're going to take red zone carries. But do you think Chase Brown's a threat to hit 10 touchdowns this season? Because I don't. Well, do you think Chase Brown's a threat to break 4.2 yards per carry? Because I don't. Do you think he's going to?
I think he's a threat to hit 10 touchdowns. I still think this Bengals team.
I don't. I don't think he's going to hit.
I think this Bengals team will be good enough.
No, I'm panicked on Chase Brown. I would, if I could sell him for someone that was going around that same range as him to start the season.
Okay, hold on. But give the names, because if you're going to say like go get a Josh Jacobs, no one's going to do a Josh Jacobs.
Yeah, you can't do that right now.
But are you going to flip Chase Brown for Chuba Hubbard?
I see them.
No,
about
no,
equal
you're
now.
not.
I see them about equal now. So no, I wouldn't, but I see them about equal.
Oh boy.
Oh man.
Well, what's the difference? They're going to
That-
see the same. amount of
The
receiving
Bengals are a
work.
substantially better offense with substantially better weapons than the
Yeah,
Carolina
better weapons, but they have Jake Browning. Like I understand he played good in the past.
How
but he's
how
still a
good is
backup
Bryce Young
quarterback.
been? Sorry, not to cut you
Not-
off, but how good is
No,
Bryce
not
Young
great,
been?
100%. But
Look better in week 2. I'll give him that. But
he's still competing for touches with Jamar Chase and T. Higgins. Like, yeah, they might move the ball better, but the ball's got to go to those guys first, and then Chase Brown. Chuba Hubbard's the first or second option in that offense.
okay, I do want to go back and like touch on Ty's question of like name the names. I do want to run that exercise because I think that's fascinating when you look at other guys who are going in the late second round, early third round of fantasy football drafts right now. Bucky Irving and Chase Brown are going 2 picks apart. Would you rather have Bucky Irving or Chase Brown?
Oh, I'm taking Bucky. I don't think that's close.
Really?
Oh, yeah.
Without you're still missing Tristan Wirfs for another couple weeks here.
Yeah, that's fine. Bucky's getting the same.
Ty, you going? Go ahead.
Same claim.
We'll probably go Bucky. Just again,
Okay.
the move from Joe Burrow to Jake Browning does affect the ceiling for this entire offense, but it's not as drastic as Cam made it out to be.
Kyron Williams.
Kyron.
The use I'm like
Brown.
I'm going Chase Brown. I'm actually
going
more
Chase Brown.
concerned about Kyron than I am Chase Brown.
Yeah.
After
Yep.
what I saw this week in terms of how Sean McVay started to rotate Blake Corum. I know it's only 1 week. I'm not trying to overreact, but if Blake Corum is going to start chipping in around the goal line a little bit, and Kyron isn't getting that 70 to 80% or 80% of touches, basically, I am a little bit concerned about that. James Cook.
Probably James Cook, just because so far
Sure.
it's been pretty much what it was last year.
I don't even
for
think you
James
can
Cook.
make that trade, honestly.
No,
No, not at this
honestly,
point.
you probably not right now. You probably can't. No, and barring how. Well, I'm sorry, I'm thinking ahead to Thursday Night Football, not Monday Night Football. Last name I'll throw out here, Kenneth Walker.
Oh,
My boy.
I think I'm going to stick Chase.
I knew
Brown
this was going to be the dagger
Okay,
for you.
good.
I think I'm going to stick Chase. I mean, Kenneth Walker could easily. I shouldn't say easily, but Kenneth Walker could for sure outscore him. If Kenneth Walker continues to look good, because if it looks like the disparity we saw this last week, then yeah, they have to play Kenneth Walker more. But like Ty has said, Chase Brown is guaranteed these touches. He's going to be guaranteed this volume.
And really, I only skipped over like Amari and Hampton, Alvin Kamara, Breece Hall before we're at Chuba Hubbard in terms of where they're going in drafts. Just for context on that, we won't exhaust that list.
I would
but
take all 3.
over Chase Brown, you would.
Yes.
We'll transition on that. We'll transition on that.
Yes,
note,
move
but-
on.
I know, but I want to hear what the people think in the comments. Like again, their panic meter is below 50%. Would you look to move off of Chase Brown right now in the comments? If so, how far down would you go for Chase Brown? In terms of dealing him in the comments, I'm curious to hear that one. Terry McLaurin. To me, this is a nuanced panic meter. Ty, again, I'm going to start with you on this one because all offseason you were talking about, look, if Terry is going to hold out until the end of August, he's going to have a slow start to the season. We saw it pick up a little bit in week 2, 9 targets, 5 receptions, 48 yards against Green Bay, albeit trailing the entire game. You saw Deebo Samuel still involved. The people, again, right around 55, 60% on Terry McLaurin in terms of the panic meter. Where are you?
I'm probably sitting at about 40-ish% at this point. I'm not as like 50%. Like if we had gotten another week 1 stat line, I would be closer to 50. But because he was targeted 9 times on Thursday, I have a little bit more optimism that this connection between Jaden Daniels and Terry is going to be, it'll get going here eventually. But now we have Jaden Daniels with a knee sprain. So
Yes.
I have no idea if we have no idea if that's, on the long week of recovery, if he's going to be back next week, if he's going to be out or how long he's then out for, like we have no idea. That being said, if we have Marcus Mariota and Terry McLaurin, I'm not expecting any good games anytime soon then. So maybe 40-ish is a bit gracious and probably should be closer to 50% just now given the current outlook of things. But I have hope that Terry is at least getting back into game speed and game shape, that we can see him kind of emerge as like, right, it is Terry and then Debo and then everyone else.
Yeah, and if we can get this on the screen during the video as well, per Ian Rappaport about 3 hours ago, 1:25 Central on Monday, September 15th, Jaden Daniels, who underwent an MRI following the loss to the Packers, sprained knee, not a long-term injury, but Cameron, Jaden Daniels' status this week against the Raiders is in doubt. How does that impact your panic meter on Terry?
Yeah, it's got to be a little bit higher. Obviously, like Ty said, it's a big difference going from Jaden Daniels to Marcus Mariota. You can't understate that. I will say last season we saw a similar start to Terry, 2 bad weeks, and then went top 20 wide receiver finishes the next 12 out of the next 15 weeks. Finished top 10 in 7 of those weeks. So we did see this last year. I will say on the back of 13 touchdowns, I don't think we quite get that again. So I'm not overly optimistic that he's going to be a top 15 wide receiver, but I don't think that it's just bottomed out and this is the new norm for Terry. I think he's going to be pretty consistent finishing somewhere between that wide receiver 18 to 24.
I think what you're going to get over the next, I'll call it 4 weeks, just because we don't know the actual timeline on Jaden Daniels' injury. I think you're going to get 5 receptions on 9 targets for 48 yards for the next 4 weeks for Terry McLaurin, until once we get to week 6, 7, 8, when finally maybe we get that Terry McLaurin, oh, there it is, 7 catches on 9 targets for 70 yards and a score. That's the Terry we've been waiting for, right? But again, that's something we named before the start of the season with Terry McLaurin. Is it might actually take 5-6 weeks for him to actually get ready into game shape. And they're not going to be trailing 17-3 going into the fourth quarter every week either, where they're going to need to put up points if they do want to stay in the game. So yeah, my meter on Terry is probably I'm probably between a 35 and a 40% on Terry McLaurin. So definitely lower than the people. But again, I think, as I mentioned throughout this episode, we always err on please practice patience before you panic too early. It's always 3 or 4 weeks in before I'm okay, now I might be starting to feel a little bit more panic than I am willing to be patient with these players. Especially with the guy, fellas, like Travion Henderson. To me, it is, no offense to our followers over on Instagram, it is baffling that they're sitting around 50% on Travion Henderson. To me, that's an overreaction to 1 week of football where they played debatably the worst defense in the National Football League, in the Miami Dolphins. And debatably, you can debate me in the comments if you want, but when the Patriots hang that many points on you, and Ramondre Stevenson is the leading receiver on the afternoon and the leading rusher on the afternoon, this is just a big overreaction to me, Cameron, because I think Travion Henderson's panic meter should still be closer to 20%.
Yeah, I would agree. I'm not ready to just give up on Travion. I've seen people asking, should we cut Travion?
Oh gosh. Where have you seen that?
On Twitter questions, not directed at me, but just Twitter questions.
Oh gosh.
And obviously it's been abysmal, right? Only 40 yards last week, or 40 yards in week 2, under 55 or 51 in week 1. So hasn't been great. The concern I have was he had 3 holding penalties this last week. If you were, he was touted as supposed to be the best pass blocking guy, and then comes out as three holding penalties. That's not going to get you on the field any quicker. If that gets cleaned up, it's pretty obvious when you watch them. He's the more explosive player. He's the guy that you want to have in space. Mike Vrabel said that 50-yard pass to Ramondre was designed for Travion. We just couldn't put him on the. Just couldn't put him
in the game.
Well, if you can't trust him with the holding penalties and stuff like that, right?
Man.
That's why you have a guy like
that
Ramondre
was
in
such
there.
an infuriating comment.
And so, it's coming. So if anything, he is a buy low for sure, because the talent's there. It's coming. They know they need to use him. It's just, how long do we have to wait? I think at the meantime, you can't be putting him in your lineup, but I do think he's an asset that you want on your team.
Yeah, if you're in agreement with what Cameron and I have been saying so far, and you're like, holy cow, really? People are 50%. You want to go help weigh that meter down closer to 0%. You can follow us over on Instagram, DFFLas over there, where we'll start posting some polls over there weekly for you all to participate in to help gauge kind of where you all are at for discussion on these videos. Tyre, you in alignment with Cam and I here, or are you actually a little bit more worried after what we saw with Ramondre this week?
I'm closer to you guys on the worry meter, but I feel like the worry meter may have been interpreted differently for Travion compared to the other players here, because
Sure.
I wonder if people are concerned about the fact that they took Travion so high in drafts that they don't exactly have a pivot off of Travion at this point, and they don't know exactly what to do. And now all that they do know is that, gosh, Travion can't be in my lineup. So I completely understand that. I would agree with that. Travion shouldn't be in your fantasy lineups until further notice. But in terms of, are you be concerned about the player and his skill set eventually breaking out, maybe closer to the second half of the year compared to what we thought would be 3, 4, 5 games into the year? Sure, I totally get that. So I wouldn't be concerned that like the breakout party isn't happening. It's just delayed at this point. But yes, now we do need to we need to find a solution to finding a stopgap in our running back 2 spot until Travion does break out.
This is Jahmyr Gibbs all over again. It's Jahmyr Gibbs all over again, where people are like, man, but he's clearly better than David Montgomery, right? He's more explosive than David. Just like we all know, right? The coaching staff admitted that play was for Travion. We just couldn't get him on the field. We know he's better than Ramondre, but it's like, oh, these things just take longer than we want them to. And I fell victim to that by having Travion Henderson as my start. Where, hey, if that reception would have gone to Travion, we would have been in business, right? I would have been just fine on my start week. But these things take time. Can I offer like a temporary solution that people might find counterintuitive, but I actually think you could probably pull off if you want like a cheap plug and play option at running back for Travion in the meantime?
Gibson?
No.
Oh my.
Golly,
Tyler Algier.
Yeah. Go buy yourself some Cam Scadaboo. I think you can get Cam Scadaboo cheap enough. You can plug him and play him. If you look, and this is until Ramondre. I think the script flipped. I don't want to talk about the New York Giants and the Travion Henderson bit, but I think the script flipped entirely for the Giants this week. I think Cam Scadaboo is their guy. He's so much more fantasy friendly, and I know not every week is going to be 37-40 with the Dallas Cowboys, but look, if the script is flipped in that capacity and you can get Cam Scadaboo for cheap enough, like I don't hate deciding between him and Travion as like an RB2 every week and playing the matchup.
Yeah, I don't hate that. Just because you need somebody.
Right.
Hopefully
if you're like, I don't know who my RB3 is, and like,
yeah.
I think Cam Scadaboo is a cheap enough RB3 right now who can give you also some of that second half upside, but he might actually be able to produce more right now because he's probably going to be out on the field more than Tyrone Tracy. At least it seemed like the script has flipped more quickly in New York. Today's show is brought to you by our friends over at Underdog, where you can get into the game this season playing pick'em. It's extremely simple. Just pick higher or lower on 2 or more of your favorite players. For example, I'll pick the hires on Justin Jefferson, Jamar Chase, and Xavier Worthy. If I played $10 and got all 3 of them right, I would win $60 just by watching football. And that's the beauty of pick'em. You can track your picks and your wins while you enjoy the game. Now, if you're not on Underdog yet, scan the QR code on your screen or use our code FELLAS when you sign up, because new customers will get $50 in bonus funds when you put your first $5 on the app. Plus, Underdog will give you a free pick to use in your first entry. Again, that's code FELLAS over on Underdog. Now let's get you back to the rest of the show. Let's keep it rolling, fellas, by moving on to the tight end position. TJ Hockenson was being taken as a top 5 tight end in drafts this year. And oh, brother, he has not been giving you top 5 tight end production. Matter of fact, got a report today, again on Monday, September 15th. JJ McCarthy set to miss 2 to 4 weeks with an ankle injury after still playing through on Sunday Night Football against the Falcons. Through his first 2 weeks this year with JJ McCarthy, 7 targets, only caught 4 passes for 27 yards. Cameron, look, people are sitting right around like 60, 65 on the panic meter. I don't know if Carson Wentz is going to make things any better, especially when you get Jordan Addison back in this lineup. Not this upcoming week, but the week after.
Yeah, this one hurts. I was high on Hawk. I thought, JJ is going to be pretty decent. Hawk's going to be healthy. I would be a little panicked. The issue for me with Hockenson is I don't know what you're going to get better at the tight end position.
That's the problem.
I still think there's enough upside for me personally. I understand if you're like, I think he's just, we're going to see 1.7 the whole time. Like if that's where you're at, then yeah, obviously you can find something better than waiver wire making a trade. I'm just thinking, I just don't know if you're going to be able to upgrade enough where it's going to feel worth it. So I'm fine sticking with Hawk at least for the first 2 weeks with Carson Wentz to see how it goes. Because I'm not overly panicked. It's like I got to get him off my roster. But the idea that he's going to be this top 4, sneak ahead of Laporta, maybe challenge, you get back to where he was. I think that dream's pretty dead right now.
I don't know, and maybe to be clear too, first and foremost, I'm with the people on this one. I am like definitely sitting around like a 60, 65 on TJ Hockenson in terms of the panic meter. I also don't think because I'm higher on the panic meter means I'm looking to get TJ Hockenson off my roster, mostly because I would only get maybe 5 cents on the dollar right now, Ty, for TJ Hockenson. For me, what I'm willing to do here, though, is if I scooped up a Harold Fannin in week 1, he's the obvious player for TJ Hockenson right now.
Obviously, it's Mark Andrews vibes without the touchdowns, right? Where it's just
without the touchdowns.
He's getting bailed out by the touchdowns. CJ Hockenson is just not getting touchdowns at the moment because this Minnesota offense is just struggling right now. And thankfully for Hockenson, this is probably the easiest to-do list player in this episode of just gosh, I have TJ Hockenson. I don't know what to do. Here's what you do. Put him on your bench. Go target a Zach Ertz, a Harold Fannin, Jawan Johnson.
You're streaming.
Yes.
Get ready to learn streaming tight ends, buddy. That's where you're at.
Correct.
Yeah, that's where you're at with TJ Hockenson.
So and it's unfortunate. It's concerning that yes, JJ McCarthy's now down. You're going to Carson Wentz. Jordan Addison's coming back into the fold in 2 weeks. Everything doesn't look good for TJ Hockenson to bounce back. So your hope is that they can recuperate a little bit during the bye week, and then everything is at full strength and ready to go. But again, if you're looking for the immediate advice with TJ Hockenson, you have to keep him on your bench. He should not be anywhere near your lineup, and you need to start streaming other tight ends.
I always say the tight end is a backup quarterback's best friend. Unfortunately, I'm not quite sure if that applies here to TJ Hockenson.
To Carson Wentz.
Well, I don't know if it applies to Carson Wentz. But when you also have, let's not pretend Justin Jefferson looked all that happy last night. I mean, again, growing pains in McCarthy, I do think Jefferson and KOC and JJ McCarthy can figure that all out, sit down in a room together and sort that out. But you're going to have a guy who's hungry to get the football in his hands. Again, you're going to have a Jordan Addison returning. Let's not act like Adam Thielen hasn't been playing a role in this Minnesota Vikings offense. He drew a couple important targets in last night's on Monday on Sunday Night Football against the Falcons as well. Is Hawk better than Adam Thielen at this point in his career? I would like to think so, but brother, I think you're streaming tight ends at this point until TJ Hockenson proves he can give you anything of substance in your lineup, because you can't keep rolling out 3 points and 1.7 points in half PPR formats week in and week out. Let's move it on to the Chicago Bears, who the Minnesota Vikings played on Monday Night Football in week 1. DJ Moore, total 11 targets and 8 receptions through his first 2 weeks. Not a bad week 1. 68 receiving yards, 46 receiving yards in week 2. Got 3 rush attempts in week 1. Didn't get any in week 2, but repeat 7.1 fantasy points in half PPR formats through the first 2 weeks, Cameron. And maybe what I think is probably catalyzing people on the panic meter for DJ Moore is Rome Odunze looked like the top 10 pick he was against the Detroit Lions. And
let's go.
Thank goodness, because all my Rome bags were my most drafted player was extremely happy in week 2. Now, again, it's only 1 week. but where are you at on the panic meter with DJ Moore through the first 2 weeks of the season and the role he's kind of playing in the Chicago Bears offense?
Yeah, we said it all off season of what if the top 10 pick from last year is actually the wide receiver 1 on this team?
What if he
And,
plays like a top 10 pick?
Yeah, exactly. And it's happening. I obviously, out of the three of us, have been more optimistic on DJ Moore this whole time. I think he could be the wide receiver 1. I think DJ Moore they have to kind of fine tune his role in this offense, because I think they're trying to use him differently than Rome, right? Rome, you're playing as a traditional wide receiver, whereas Ben Johnson has so many things he wants to do. I think he's trying to figure out exactly where DJ Moore fits into this, because he is a little more versatile, especially with the ball in his hands. With that being said, I think there are going to be growing pains. I think there's going to be a lot. He's going to be more of a boom bust player, because I think we're going to have a couple big DJ Moore weeks where it's 120. It's essentially what Rome just did, but I think the floor for Rome is probably a little safer. So I'm a little panicked. I'm probably about a 30-35, but I'm not ready to call it quits on DJ Moore, because I do think just the Bears offense as a whole is going to, these first couple weeks, have a lot of growing pains.
Yeah, and again, this is another panic meter that I feel like is a little bit nuanced for me, because Ty, you and I both came into the season much more in favor of Rome Odunze compared to DJ Moore. So when these are his performances through the first 2 weeks, I'm not surprised. This was definitely like not quite what I expected, but like, can I say I'm surprised that Rome has shown he's incredibly talented wide receiver, might actually be better than DJ Moore? No, I can't say I'm surprised at all, but I'm also with Cameron in saying, yeah, my panic meter for DJ Moore is probably like 30-35, because again, I don't want to be a broken record, but the growing pains and my favoritism of Rome are definitely the two things involved for me here. What's involved for you, and where are you at?
So I think the panic for people is that they bought in. I shouldn't say that they bought in, but the general consensus was that a lot of people thought that DJ Moore was going to be the wide receiver 1 in Chicago. They took him before Rome. They took him before any other pass catcher. So the expectation was that DJ Moore was supposed to be the one to have the Rome Odunze game we saw in week 2. You guys mentioned it. I don't think we're not going to get any of those games. They will come eventually down the road. But I just think a lot of people did not expect the bumpy road so far this year. So I understand where the concern lies with the public. I would agree with you guys as well. I'm about 30-35% panicked, because on the chance that Rome Odunze just goes strength to strength and doesn't really slow down, well, then DJ Moore is just kind of in the dust at that point. But we all agree that there is a talented player here in DJ Moore, that eventually he can figure out a role and he can carve out a role that can ultimately lead to fantasy points.
Yeah, I think there's definitely a fruitful role here for him in the Ben Johnson offense. It's just not as typical as you would see from, again, like a guy like Amon-Ra St. Brown, right? Everybody wanted to find the Amon-Ra St. Brown. We kind of told you there isn't going to be one, but if there's a guy who can suit the skill set of an Amon-Ra St. Brown and the types of routes that he runs throughout the season, it was going to be Rome Odunze and not DJ Moore. So there is we saw with Jameson Williams last year. He didn't have to be Amon-Ra St. Brown to put up a crap ton of fantasy points. DJ Moore doesn't have to be Rome Odunze to put up a crap ton of fantasy points, but that role is going to take more time for Ben Johnson to implement, especially when they're trying to get the fundamentals and the basics of this offense still figured out. Ben Johnson can't do all these fun, creative, schemed play calls for DJ Moore when you're getting 52 points pinned on your forehead. Yeah. It's just not possible. So I think there's room for DJ Moore here. The question that is left unsaid is, will Caleb Williams and the Bears and Ben Johnson figure it out in time for you in your fantasy football leagues? That's a question that I don't have an answer for you, because it's only 2 weeks in. We could be in week 5 and they figure this whole thing out, and DJ Moore is good for the next 6 weeks, and he's a wide receiver 2 on your team. But that being said, I think 30-35 is an appropriate range. Were you going to chime in with something there, Cameron?
I just said, how dare you not know? You call yourself.
How dare I claim to be
it's just ridiculous. You have to
family-friendly neighborhood fantasy analyst and say I don't have the answer to something. Oh, how dare! Unsubscribe now, my people. Unsubscribe now if you're expecting.
Subscribe to my personal.
Yeah, go follow Campbell FFF. He'll give you Keyshawn Boutte guarantees for scores every single week if that's what you want.
That Canes is gonna taste pretty good.
It actually does sound really good right now. I need to eat dinner. I might go get Canes. Just kidding.
You can DoorDash to my house.
I'll go buy one for myself and hand deliver the 2 I owe you. That's what it'll be. And I will say, Mr. Lawrence, you are a better fellow than I am. Let's move it on to, hey, we're three teams in the same division here. Matthew Golden. To me, it's surprising that people
I thought he was going to be all the way up for everybody. I thought
he was too. I was shocked to see, again, if you're an audio listener, like, just to go back for a second, I mean, just a smidge higher than DJ Moore on the panic meter. We're sitting in that like 60% range. Can I be honest? I think I'd like to maybe parlay this after I don't have an answer for DJ Moore. I don't know how panicked I actually am on Matt. It's not that I'm not panicked on Matthew Golden, but like, I don't know how to quantify my feelings for Matthew Golden, Ty, after what we saw on Thursday Night Football, where like he was relegated to a backup. Like I get they were winning. I get it. There wasn't a need to heavily feature this wide receiver core. But like, oh brother, the camp buzz we got was just like almost like fool's gold at this point, it feels like.
It certainly was. It was the best, the biggest smoke screen we have ever seen. Because everything we were hearing was that Matthew Golden was going to be the guy in the receiver room, the guy that was going to kind of be the staple of the passing game. And so far that has not been the case. Again, I think back to when people were taking Matthew Golden in their drafts. Matthew Golden was their wide receiver 4, their wide receiver 5. So you're not exactly paying, or there aren't huge consequences for the slow start for Matthew Golden just yet. So this is one where I would say I'm more frustrated than I am concerned about anything, because Matthew Golden, again, for all the camp buzz, he's rotating in as this number 2 receiver opposite of Romeo Doubs with Dontavian Wicks. Then Jaden Reed gets hurt, breaks his collarbone, and it's Dontavian Wicks that then goes into the slot when they go into 3 receiver sets, not Matthew Golden. So honestly, if there's 2 Packers receivers to know in the, for fantasy football, at least, it is Dontavian Wicks and Romeo Doubs, because I think those are going to be the most full-time players. Matthew Golden then is going to be the guy rotating. I also want to just say Matthew Golden was the most popular tweet between Thursday and Sunday, because everyone goes, look at the 2 plays, and Matthew Golden could have had 15 fantasy points.
Yeah. It was what, 20, 25, 30 missed fantasy points on 2 throws from Jordan Love?
Yeah. So I want to, again, it's more frustration than concern. It's more disappointing than it is like panic, time to panic. But man, it's just like, why? It fooled everybody. Everyone bought in on Matthew Golden. And if you didn't buy into Matthew Golden, it was because you weren't in on this Packers passing offense then.
Yeah, I think that's a good sentiment to end there. Like, it seemed like the stars were aligning. Jaden Reed was missing training camp as well, so it's like more opportunity for Matthew Golden. I think the other thing that boils into this for me too, Cameron, is we know these first-year wide receivers typically don't break out until the second half of the season. As good as Tedero McMillan has looked thus far, there's a part of me that's still like, yeah, I can't be panicked on Matthew Golden, though, because if I am being honest with myself in my heart of hearts, I was hoping for a quick start, but realistically, I knew that the uptick for Matthew Golden probably wasn't going to come until like week 8, week 9, even week 10 at the potential earliest. So that's the other part that I don't quite know how to boil into this panic meter, where the role right now is concerning. You lose a Jaden Reed, like Ty mentioned, and it's Dontavian Wicks, maybe for just a game. Maybe we see Golden get more involved next week. There's too many questions here for me that I just don't know how to quantify on a panic meter. So maybe you can maybe help me out form that opinion a little bit more, because part of me is just like, I'm 50-50.
Yeah.
And that's because I just don't know what to do in terms of the panic meter.
I will say, July me, I'd been like, hey, you're all right. August me is like, I bought, like Ty said, I bought completely hook, line, and sinker into this camp pipe, moving way too high on my rankings, and I'm feeling it a little bit now. But like you said, I think we can take a breather, because at this point we know who Romeo Dobbs is. We know who Dontavian Wicks are. They're not going to emerge as the clear-cut wide receiver one in this offense, because if they were, they would have by now. They've had that opportunity. So the path is still there. If Matthew Golden continues to figure it out, if he starts to get there, playing time's going to come, targets are going to come, because Jordan Love looks good. And the good thing for Golden as well is Love is chucking it down the field. So he's not a guy who's going to need 11 targets. He's a guy who's going to need 6 or 7 and be viable or even really good for fantasy on a given week. So you have those built in. He feels to me like Travion minus from the fact of he should
Walmart Travion.
I think he should stay on your bench.
Aldi Travion, yeah.
I'm not getting rid of him. If I have a bench spot and I have, some, let's see, I'm just thinking of guys who aren't overly productive, but are kind of at the end of your Jalen Warren.
Wan'Dale Robinson.
Jalen Warren, I would go trade for Matthew Golden or something like that. Oh, right, sure. A guy who's like
one of the best running back plays of the entire year thus
far. Very
far.
Fun to watch. Yes, very fun to watch, but like I'm not overly excited. Cooper Kupp, if somebody's like, something like that, where someone's like, I don't hate that. I can afford to have this guy on my bench, knowing the upside is much greater, and somebody who's like, I need someone to just put up 7 points, and you just give me someone. So that's kind of where I'm at. I don't think you have to be too panicked, but at the same time, if you're like, I need points, he is not your guy right now.
Yeah, I think the optimistic me would be going out and trying to see how cheap I could buy Matthew Golden right now. Could I get him for 10 cents on the dollar?
Seriously, I would.
Part of me wonders if you can. Which is why I'm like that. But again, that's why I'm like, I don't know if I'm that panicked, right? Yeah. Or I'm like, I'm still invested because I think I can actually get him for such an affordable price right now. Where back half of the season, sure, you might be looking at a Kayshon Boutte, right, as like a wide receiver 30, but could Matthew Golden be giving you top 25 production over the back half of the season if Jordan Love is playing at the level he is right now?
Mm-hmm. I just want to, if people can put in the comments, if you have Kayshon Boutte and you go trade for Matthew Golden, like make that happen. I know that
would you do it?
I would do that in a heartbeat.
Well, I know you would, but like to the viewer.
Yeah, like if you can pull it off, if you want to do it, show it in the comments, because I think I don't want to say it's a league winning move, but like that's how you set yourself up for success in fantasy football.
Yeah. Yes, that's 100% it. We do videos on our shorts channel as well. And, 4 weeks into the season, 5 weeks into the season of like, hey, if you're 0-4, we can turn this thing around. There's ways to strategically build your team to just shoot for the moon over the back half of the season to put you in contention again. So, well, Fantasy Football Fellow Shorts over on YouTube. If you're a YouTube person, we'll talk about our shorts at the end of the episode. But if you also want to have a say in this panic meter each week, we'll be doing a few other videos like this throughout the course of the season. Again, that's over on our Instagram. DFFL is over there, where you'll get our short form content and you'll get a chance to participate in these polls that we'll be running every week as well. Let's close it out. We got one more player here, fellas. To me, this is the most obvious. It is time to panic. Even more so, get ready to learn streaming tight ends, buddy. Like Mark Andrews. Like the people are sitting at like 75%. Frankly, I'm just kind of like, I'm done with Mark Andrews. I don't want to play this game anymore.
Yeah, he's droppable. He is.
Oh, we did this last year though. Can I play that? Can I play that counterpoint? We did this exact same thing last year.
You can, but what was different last year is Lamar threw 41 touchdowns. And you know what else was different? Isaiah Likely was already popping off while he did it. Isaiah Likely's not in the lineup right now, and he's still struggling. Rashad Bateman is not popping off, and he's still struggling. That's what's concerning. It's likely he's going to come back, right? We're going to have more competition on top of what you're getting right now from Mark Andrews, and he has 2 catches for 7 yards. Yeah, could he have had a touchdown if that call goes the other way in the end zone? sure, you're still at 7.9 points or whatever, on the season. So it's really not exciting for me. I'm okay dropping. If you got somebody in your league who will bite on it and give you Matthew Golden because of name value,
Oh, there
alone
you
for
go.
Mark Andrews.
There's a Matthew
Send
Golden
to Mark
trade.
Andrews, but I'm okay cutting Mark Andrews to go pick up, like Ty said, Zach Ertz or Mark Andrews. I don't even think that one's remotely close. I'm taking Zach Ertz.
Wow. Okay. All right. So you're nodding, Ty. Is that just pro Zach Ertz or like pro you're in agreement here?
Well, it is just because he was my tight end stream last week, so I now have to feel like I have victory lapping and go, yeah, Zach Ertz. I call that one. No, I agree with Cam. I think he's droppable. Tell me what the pro case is, and if you're going to tell me, well, he scores touchdowns.
Yeah, that's the pro case.
Then tell me why Tez Walker is now getting red zone targets. Like
DeAndre
there's
Hopkins,
nothing
2 touchdowns to the first 2 weeks.
Yeah, that's true.
He's your new Mark Andrews.
I always said that was an option. That hey, you bring in DeAndre Hopkins to help you out in the red zone, so it's not just Isaiah Likely and Mark Andrews as in your red zone passing attack.
Yeah, I don't want the headache. I don't want the guessing game every single week. Is he going to score or not? I just cut the loss. Go get a tight end that you know exactly what you're getting. And if it's on waivers, it's a Juwan Johnson because the dude is like ridiculous, is going off right now. Like
targets on targets.
Yep. Or if you can swing a deal for a tight end, like I don't know if I would do. Gosh, I'm looking at names. You're not going to get Tucker Kraft. You're not going to get Trey McBride, not Brock Bowers, not Tyler Warren, Jake Ferguson. If you can go swing a trade for Jake Ferguson, I don't know if you're going to be able to do it after this past week, but like,
right.
This is one that it's time to just pivot because the headache, I don't think is worth it.
Jonnu Smith or Mark Andrews?
Oh, Mark Andrews still, but
I'm still going to go Mark Andrews. I'm so okay, but the case you make for Jonnu Smith there is, hey, Arthur Smith is going to manufacture 4 or 5 touches for him every game, so you're guaranteed 4 or 5 touches every single game. You can't even get that through 2 weeks with Mark Andrews, right? I mean that's the case you make there. I understand. So Ty, I mean, you bring up Juwan Johnson. I mean, he's going to be featured on an episode of Hoarders here with how many targets and receptions he's bringing in, but like, seriously, like. I would play the volume of Juwan Johnson.
Oh, absolutely.
If he's going to be peppered in targets this much, like that's to me more reliable than the touchdowns. It's the Jonnu Smith thing where, hey, if he were getting 6-7 touches, oh, that's a no-brainer then too. But if it's 4 or 5, what's he going to do with them? I don't think he's going to be scoring the touchdowns for the Steelers. That one to me is like, I could play Mark Andrews on the chance that I still do believe this Baltimore Ravens red zone passing attack is built around these tight ends. It's built around Mark Andrews. I understand Lamar Jackson isn't going to throw 40 plus touchdowns again this year. But the thing that then I like talk myself like almost to the cliff on with this is like 81 total points in week 1 and Mark Andrews couldn't do jack squat.
Yeah.
That's the concerning thing because even in week 1 last year against the Chiefs, it wasn't this 81 point. You got a dream of a game. A dream scenario, a dream game plan for Mark Andrews to put up points. These 40 plus points for both teams. Mark Andrews can't even give you 2 points.
Yeah,
it's brutal, man. It's brutal. I don't know if I'm ready to go as far as cutting. I think I'm still holding on to Mark Andrews at the end of my bench. But yeah, Ty, like you said, like if I'm a Mark Andrews manager, I am 1,000% prioritizing Juwan Johnson on my waiver wire if he's still there.
I think I'm okay. Like if I had to decide between George Kittle and I had to start George Kittle the next 3 weeks and know I'm getting zeros like the rest of the year or Mark Andrews, I'm going to pick George Kittle.
That's just bad, man. You got to at least take the points. You got to at least take the points. With Mark
Andrews.
If
I know I'm getting him the rest of the season, I don't think it's. I'm going to take zeros the next.
Okay.
So you take the zeros the next 3 weeks and then get Kittle, versus you get Andrews these 3 weeks and then Andrews the rest of the season.
That's a fun thought experiment.
Cam would go as far to put Kittle in your lineup.
Yes.
Versus us would go pick up Harold Fannin and still play Fannin and
You're
then
fresh
play
out
Kittle.
of fab. You got to do something at tight end.
Yes.
Just go grab George Kittle.
I'm probably starting Austin Hooper over Mark Andrews. Like it's just crazy.
Oh man, look at you getting obscure at the tight end position. I know it's your favorite position group to talk about.
Oh yes.
Gerald Everett, the fanciest tight end you've ever seen.
I'd start
gosh.
Gerald Fannin, or not Gerald Fannin, Gerald Everett. Right now. That's a helmet.
That's exactly who he reminds you of, though. Is
Yes. They're the
Gerald
same
Everett.
player. Everett was just ahead of his time. Like, can we just be honest about
Gerald
it?
Everett was Harold Fannin before Harold Fannin was Harold Fannin.
If Gerald Everett would have played at Bowling Green, he would have been Harold Fannin. Like, I think it's pretty obvious at this point. That's kind of where I'm at.
I'm just shocked that we're talking about Gerald Fannin in the year of our Lord 20.
Gerald Fannin, you did it too.
I know.
Gerald
but-
Everett.
I feel like the standards have dropped. We have sunk back into the familiar places of comfort with Gerald Everett, and we need to be better. We need to be better moving forward.
Sorry,
Oh,
Harold
man.
Fannin. Your new name is Gerald.
You're- From now on, he will be dubbed Gerald Fannin.
Sir
on our
Knight Gerald
show.
Fannin.
We knighted in everything, Sir Gerald Fannin from here on out. Oh man. Oh, what a way to close out the show. If you're appreciative of the fun and camaraderie that you're reminded of through this, I mean, this is what fantasy football is about for all of us, right? Yes, sure, we want to provide you all the fun insights to help you beat your friends, but fantasy football is such a unifying game. It's what unified our friendship here. So appreciate it if you all would hit that subscribe button, turn on the notification bell as well. Ring up that like button too while you're at it. Appreciate you all joining us for the journey that we're on here to bring you all some fun, insightful, entertaining fantasy football content throughout the process. If you want even more content from us, Fantasy Football Fellas over on X and Facebook, or over on TikTok and Facebook, excuse me. I went in reverse order again. I always have my order down for this. Golly. FF Fellas over on X, DFF Fellas over on Instagram, Fantasy Football Fellas on Facebook and TikTok, YouTube Truther through and through. Now I'm mixing up all my letters because we got Gerald Fannin going on here. Fantasy
Gerald
Football Fellas shorts over on YouTube. Just a good old pair of khaki shorts on today, fellas. I had to look a little bit nice today for work, so just rocked the khaki. Cameron's disgusted. I thought I was gonna be better about this now that we actually have a formal outro. I don't know if people actually watch that, but hey, we'll be Ty and Cam will be back tomorrow with some trade targets, and then on Thursday we'll have our 18 players who will change your week 3 outcome in fantasy football. We'll see y'all then. Deuces.
Deuces.